I want you to imagine your mind as a ship.
Okay, a ship.
Yeah, but we are not talking about like a massive modern cruise liner here.
Right. No automated stabilizers or, satellite GPS or anything like that.
Exactly. Picture an older wooden vessel,
Mhm.
and you are at the helm, and you are just completely lost in the middle of a violent churning sea.
Oh, man. That's a stressful image right off the bat.
It is, but I mean, here's the thing. This isn't a sea of salt water. Um, it's a sea of information overload.
Yeah. That is the perfect way to describe it.
And the waves are just relentlessly breaking over the bow. Like every single push notification that lights up your screen.
Every buzz vibrating in your pocket.
Right. Every breaking news alert, every viral video, there are all these intense cross currents. And they are violently, constantly pulling you further and further away from the shore.
And you're just exhausted.
Completely disoriented. And I mean, if you are being completely honest with yourself right now as you're listening to this, you are probably terrified that you are losing your bearing altogether.
Your mind is just drifting.
It's drifting. So today on this deep dive, we are grabbing the wheel.
I love it. Let's grab the wheel.
We have a very specific mission today. We are going to explore how to restore the ancient art of biblical discernment, but in a digital age.
Which is incredibly difficult to do.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
But we are going to map out exactly how to anchor that drifting ship of your mind. And we are synthesizing a really massive stack of research today to do it.
We really are. We've got neuroscientific studies on the reading brain.
Yep, and sociological surveys from the Barna Group.
We're also pulling from historical theology, which is fascinating, looking at C.S. Lewis and, a 17th century Puritan allegory.
Oh, The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. We're going to dig deep into that.
And then finally, we're going to tie all of this together with some contemporary frameworks on human habit formation.
Right. So we're looking at the architecture of the internet, the rise of artificial intelligence, and this is my favorite part, the actual physical reality of the books we hold in our hands.
It's a really critical mission because, frankly, we are facing a pretty stark reality right now.
We are.
We are absolutely drowning in data, but we are starving for wisdom.
Drowning in data, starving for wisdom. Wow.
Yeah, and the reason we are bringing all these disparate fields together, like the neuroscience, the sociology, the theology, is that the digital consensus of our age is actively competing with eternal truths.
It's not neutral.
No, not at all. We are not living in a passive environment. We are operating in what is essentially an active battleground.
So to survive it, to actually maintain any sense of, spiritual or intellectual integrity, we have to learn how to filter this absolute chaos of modern life.
Exactly. We have to filter it through the steady, tested framework of historical orthodoxy.
And our goal for this deep dive isn't just to, recite a list of interesting statistics, right? Or just drop a few cool historical anecdotes.
No, we're going to dissect the why and the how.
Yes. Why does a change in the physical way you read actually affect how you perceive reality?
And how do these cultural and neurological shifts fundamentally alter your worldview, your theology?
And ultimately, the way you live your daily life.
Yeah.
We are going to connect the dots between that glowing screen in your hand and the ancient truths that have anchored humanity for millennia.
So, where should we start?
Okay, let's start with the physical reality of what is actually happening inside our heads. We have to talk about the digital deluge and the rewired brain.
The neurological toll here is massive.
It is absolutely staggering, especially now in the mid-2020s. We're talking about the science of neuroplasticity.
Right.
And just to lay the groundwork for you, neuroplasticity is essentially the scientific reality that the human brain isn't a static piece of hardware.
It's not a computer.
Right. It's not like a computer where the motherboard is just, fixed once it leaves the factory. It physically rewires itself.
The neural circuitry literally changes based on our repeated behaviors and our environments, our experiences.
Exactly. Every single time you perform an action, a specific set of neurons fires in your brain.
There's that famous axiom in neuroscience, right? Neurons that fire together wire together.
Fire together, yes.
So when you repeat a behavior over and over, your brain physically strengthens those specific neural pathways.
Making it easier to do the next time.
Exactly. Faster, more automatic. It physically thickens the connections. But conversely, the pathways you don't use,
they shrink.
Yeah, they begin to weaken and basically get pruned away because your brain is highly efficient. It optimizes itself for whatever environment you put it in.
Which honestly brings us to the work of researchers like Nicholas Carr and Marianne Wolf.
Their work is so eye-opening on this.
It really is. They spent years looking into what happens when we habitually consume the internet.
Yeah.
Because the internet demands a very specific type of interaction, doesn't it?
It demands rapid context switching.
Yes. And multitasking. Like, you aren't really reading a web page, are you?
No, you're scanning it.
You're scanning. You're looking for bullet points, maybe some bolded words. You want that quick dopamine hit of the core message so you can just move on to the next tab.
It's true.
I mean, I notice this in myself all the time. I used to be able to sit down and read a 300-page book over a weekend without breaking a sweat.
Oh, I miss those days.
Right. Now I find myself skimming a 10-page chapter and feeling this, like, almost physical itch to check my phone.
Well, that itch is the physical consequence of neuroplasticity working against you.
Wait, really? It's physical?
Yes. When you engage in that rapid scanning consumption every single day for hours on end, the physical neural pathways required for sustained concentration literally begin to atrophy.
That is terrifying.
The pathways for deep reading just shrink. The internet, as a medium, is explicitly optimized for attention capture.
Right, they want your eyeballs.
Exactly. It is not optimized for sustained, deep engagement.
I want to really dig into the architecture of this because it's so insidious. Just think about what the internet actually looks like when you are on it.
Oh, okay.
You're reading an article, right?
Right. But there are hyperlinks embedded in the text.
Oh, the hyperlinks. They are killers for focus. They really are. Because every single hyperlink is a tiny cognitive decision you have to make.
Your brain has to ask, do I click this and go down a new rabbit hole, or do I stay here?
Exactly. And even if you don't click it, your brain had to process the option. You expended energy.
And then, while you're deciding that, a push notification slides down from the top of your screen.
A text message. An email alert.
A breaking news banner.
And then you have the endless, frictionless scroll of the algorithmic feed, which is, designed so that there is no psychological stopping cue.
It just keeps going forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
This entire environment rewards breadth and speed, but it completely annihilates depth.
Because every single time you suffer an interruption or a context switch, it effectively clears your brain's working memory.
Clears it, like completely wipes it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And we need to understand exactly what that working memory wipe does to us.
Okay, unpack that for me.
So your working memory is like the brain's scratch pad. It's where you hold multiple pieces of information temporarily so you can connect them, synthesize them, and form a complex thought.
Okay, that makes sense.
But it has a very limited capacity. So every time you switch away to check a notification and then switch back to your reading, you have completely dropped the contents of that scratch pad.
Oh, wow. So you have to start over?
Yeah, you have to reinvest cognitive energy just to rebuild the context of whatever you were trying to focus on.
It sounds exhausting.
It is. Over time, this constant flow of hyper-stimulating, fragmented stimuli short-circuits our capacity for conscious and even unconscious deep thought.
And this is where Marianne Wolf's research comes in, right?
Yes. She points out that this immersion in digital media actively curtails the development of what she calls the contemplative dimension of the brain.
The contemplative dimension. I mean, let's unpack that because it sounds beautiful, but the fact that it's actively shrinking in my head is terrifying.
It's a very real concern.
What exactly makes up this contemplative dimension?
Well, the contemplative dimension is the complex cognitive machinery that allows human beings to go beyond merely decoding symbols on a page.
Okay, so it's more than just reading the words.
Much more. It is the network that provides you with the capacity to form deep insights. It's where you make complex analogies.
Like drawing inferences from a text.
Exactly. Reading between the lines to understand the unstated premise. And crucially, this is the big one, it is the exact neurological real estate where empathy is developed.
Wait, empathy? Our ability to feel for others is tied to how we read.
Absolutely. When you read deeply, especially a complex narrative, your brain has the time to actually simulate the experiences and emotions of the characters or the author.
So without that time to reflect.
Without that contemplative time and space, empathy cannot fully form.
Wow.
The modern mind, stripped of this dimension, becomes rigidly accustomed to processing information quickly in these brief, superficial bursts.
So we become highly reactive.
Highly reactive, but entirely shallow.
This is where it gets really real for you, the listener.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you are trying to maintain any kind of spiritual life.
Or engage with any complex text.
Right, like the Bible.
Yeah.
There is a direct, undeniable line between this neurological rewiring and our theological reality.
There really is.
Because Orthodox Christian discipleship, historically, It requires linear, focused meditation.
You have to sit with the text.
You have to. You're dealing with a complex text that was written thousands of years ago in a vastly different culture.
Yeah.
It requires you to chew on it, to let it challenge you, to hold contradictory tensions in your mind.
And that entire process is fundamentally, structurally opposed to the fragmented nature of digital consumption.
They are completely at odds. And the net result is that we are walking around in a state of chronic distraction.
Our memories are weakened.
And we are just constantly vibrating with this, like, ambient anxiety.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of how to visualize this for the listener.
What did you come up with?
Okay, so it's like we have taken the modern brain and treated it like a muscle that has only ever been trained to run frantic, high-intensity 10-yard dashes.
Okay, I like that.
We sprint, we stop, we check our phones, we sprint, we stop, we open a new tab. We do this 10,000 times a day.
Constant sprinting.
Right. And then we sit down on a Sunday morning or in a quiet room on a Tuesday night with an ancient text, and we suddenly ask that exact same muscle to run a slow, grueling 26-mile marathon.
And we wonder why we fail.
Of course we fail. Of course our minds wander after 30 seconds. We literally lack the biological stamina.
We haven't trained for it.
Exactly. But let me push back on this a little bit, because I think a lot of people might assume it's an issue of content, not the tool itself.
Ah, the content argument.
Right. Like, is it really that the medium changes us, or are we just reading bad, shallow content?
Meaning, if you read better things, the medium doesn't matter.
Yeah. If I curate my Twitter feed to only show me dense theology and brilliant philosophers, doesn't that solve the problem?
It's a brilliant question, but the answer is a definitive no.
Right.
No. And this is a vital point to grasp. The medium is not morally neutral.
The medium itself.
Yes, the tool itself molds your cognitive capacity.
Right.
It is not just about the content you are consuming, it is deeply about the architecture of the delivery system.
So the scrolling itself is the problem.
Yes, a medium that prioritizes scanning, rapid context switching, and infinite scrolling will fundamentally prevent you from achieving the empathy and insight that comes from deep reading.
Wow. Even if I'm scrolling through John Calvin quotes.
It does not matter whether you are scanning celebrity gossip or scanning a multi-part thread on 16th century Reformation theology.
The cognitive action is the exact same.
Exact same. A mind conditioned entirely by the superficiality of a screen will inevitably project that same superficiality onto its understanding of reality.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
And ultimately, it will project that superficiality onto its understanding of the divine. If you only ever interact with God in 140-character bursts or short video clips, your conception of God becomes small, fragmented, and easily dismissible.
Okay, so the medium is the message.
Yeah.
And right now the message is stay shallow, keep moving.
Exactly.
And this leads perfectly into a brilliant concept we pulled from the work of C.S. Lewis. He talked a lot about what he called chronological snobbery.
Yes, chronological snobbery.
Can you break that down for us?
Sure. Lewis defined chronological snobbery as this uncritical acceptance of the intellectual climate common to your own age.
Like assuming we know best because we live now.
Right. It's the arrogant assumption that whatever has gone out of date is automatically discredited simply because it is old.
Just because it's not the new thing.
Exactly. Lewis astutely noted that ideas are very rarely discarded by society because they have been logically or theologically refuted.
They just go out of style.
Mostly, yeah. They're just discarded because they've faded from cultural fashion.
And what absolutely blew my mind in looking at this research is how chronological snobbery has mutated in 2026.
It's taken on a whole new form.
It really has. It has morphed into what we can call algorithmic snobbery.
It is a profound and, frankly, dangerous mutation.
Define algorithmic snobbery for us.
Algorithmic snobbery is the phenomenon where you subconsciously equate the virality, the recency, and the digital consensus of an idea with its ultimate objective truth.
Think about exactly how this happens. You open an app,
Right.
and you see a video of someone giving a theological hot take.
Right. Usually with high production value.
Yeah, maybe there's some emotive piano music playing in the background. The text is popping up on the screen in a highly engaging way.
It's designed to capture you.
And right there, next to the video, is a little badge that says 1.5 million likes.
And your brain just zeroes in on that number.
Instantly. Our rewired dopamine-hungry brains instantly process that metric. The brain says 1.5 million people agree with this. This is the consensus. Therefore, this must be true.
This must be important.
Right. We subconsciously assume that the newness of an idea or its ability to capture fleeting digital attention gives it legitimacy.
But we are being played.
Totally played. Extreme individualism and our intense desire for personal autonomy drive us to prefer these new viral ideas simply because they feel better.
Or because they perfectly align with whatever the current societal outrage happens to be.
And we cannot forget that digital platforms are explicitly engineered by incredibly smart people to exploit exactly this vulnerability.
The algorithms do not trigger dopamine responses by prioritizing nuance.
No, they don't care about historical context.
Or eternal realities. They prioritize engagement, period.
And what drives engagement?
Outrage, novelty, and affirmation.
So you have a perfect storm. You have a brain that has been physically rewired to scan.
Immersed in a medium that absolutely demands shallowness.
And it is operating in a cultural ecosystem that equates viral novelty with objective truth.
It's a very difficult environment to navigate.
It's terrifying when you lay it all out like that. Like, if our brains are physically being rewired to trust the newest viral trend, how on earth do we filter out the noise?
We have to look outside of the digital ecosystem.
Right. If our internal compass is spinning wildly because of these digital crosscurrents, where do we go to recalibrate?
We need an anchor point that is immune to the algorithm.
Immune to the algorithm. I love that.
Yeah.
And that brings us to a historical filtering mechanism. We need to look at the Puritan allegory of the interpreter's house.
This is such a powerful section. To understand this, we have to look back to the 17th century, to John Bunyan and his monumental work, The Pilgrim's Progress.
Which is an absolute classic.
It is. Now, to give you some context on why this matters, John Bunyan wrote this allegory while he was sitting in a physical prison.
Wait, he wrote it in prison?
Yes, for refusing to stop preaching without a license from the state church.
Wow.
So he was dealing with intense physical institutional opposition, and yet he wrote a book that became one of the most widely read books in the English language for centuries.
Second only to the Bible, I think.
Exactly. So the story follows a protagonist named Christian who is on a desperate journey from the city of destruction toward salvation.
And early in his journey, he has to make a specific stop.
Right. After he passes through the wicket gate, but before he reaches the final assurance of the cross, he is told he cannot proceed until he stops at a specific location to be educated and warned.
And that place is the interpreter's house.
The interpreter's house.
And it's important to note, for those who haven't read it, that this isn't just like a quaint little bed and breakfast on the side of the road.
No, not at all.
The interpreter's house is an intense, visceral, theological training ground. Christian is guided through the house by a figure called the interpreter.
And the interpreter is highly symbolic. He represents the illuminating work of the Holy Spirit.
But specifically operating in a certain way, right?
Yes, specifically operating in tandem with faithful, historical, pastoral guidance. The interpreter's job isn't just to give Christian a map and send him on his way.
Right, here's the directions. Good luck.
Exactly, no. His job is to show him vivid, unforgettable things that reveal the true, ugly nature of the human heart.
And the incredibly subtle dangers of false teaching.
Exactly.
I want to walk through the specific rooms he sees because the imagery is just so sharp and it cuts right to the core of what we're dealing with today.
Let's do it.
Okay, so in one room, Christian is led into a large parlor. And the interpreter tells him that this parlor has never been swept.
It's just filthy.
Completely covered in a thick, suffocating layer of dust. The interpreter explains that this dust represents original sin and our inward, corrupt human nature.
Okay, setting the stage.
Then, a man comes in the room holding a broom, and he starts sweeping furiously.
Trying to clean it up.
Trying to clean it. But instead of cleaning the room, the sweeping just kicks all the dust up into the air. It's flying everywhere, and Christian is literally choking on it. He can't breathe.
It's such a brilliant piece of psychological and theological insight.
What is Bunyan illustrating there?
Well, Bunyan is illustrating something profound. The man with the broom represents the law of God, the rules, the commandments, the moral oughts.
The things we are supposed to do.
Right. Bunyan is showing us that simply applying the rules to a corrupt human heart doesn't clean it.
The law just kicks up the dust.
The law merely exposes the sin. It stirs it up. It makes the reality of your own corruption suffocating.
Wow.
The law shows you exactly how messy the room is, but it gives you absolutely no power to fix it. It just leaves you choking on your own inadequacy.
That is so true. And just as Christian is about to pass out from choking on this dust, a damsel comes into the room.
And what does she do?
She's carrying a pitcher, and she begins to gently sprinkle water across the floor. The
Ah.
water catches the dust, settles it down, cleanses the air, and suddenly the room is habitable again.
And the water is the gospel.
The water, the interpreter explains, is the gospel of grace. It is the only thing that can actually subdue the dust.
The imagery continues into another crucial room, which is equally powerful.
Oh, the fire. Tell them about the fire.
Christian is taken to see a fire burning fiercely against a wall, and standing directly in front of the fire is a demonic figure, and he has buckets of water.
Trying to put it out.
He is constantly, relentlessly throwing this water onto the flames to extinguish them. It's an endless assault.
But it doesn't work.
No. Defying all natural logic, the fire doesn't go out. In fact, it just burns higher and hotter with every bucket of water thrown on it.
Which makes no sense, right?
Oh.
Christian is completely baffled.
Completely. So the interpreter takes him around to the backside of the wall.
The hidden side.
The hidden side. And there, hidden entirely from view, stands a figure representing Christ. And Christ is holding a vessel of oil, and he is secretly and continuously pouring a steady stream of the oil of grace into the back of the fire.
So the hidden grace is vastly overpowering the visible opposition.
Exactly. The supply of grace is greater than the assault.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Why are we talking about a 17th century allegory involving dust and fire when our stated goal is to figure out how to navigate digital algorithms?
It seems like a jump.
It does, but it connects perfectly because in our current era, this interpreter's house serves as the perfect metaphor for ecumenical creeds and reformed confessions.
Right. The historic documents of the church.
Things like the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed, the Westminster Confession. These documents are the modern equivalent of the interpreter's house.
They act as a 2,000-year-old map.
Exactly. They help us navigate what the theologian Carl Trueman calls the ideological liquefaction of reality.
That phrase is incredible. The
Yeah.
ideological liquefaction of reality.
It is the perfect description of the internet. Because on the internet, everything is fluid.
Nothing is solid.
Nothing. Truth is, whatever is trending on a Tuesday, and by Thursday, it's entirely different.
It just shifts constantly.
To understand why ancient creeds are the absolute antidote to this liquefaction, we had to dig deeply into Carl Trueman's work. He talks about this overarching philosophy that governs modern life.
He calls it expressive individualism.
Expressive individualism. Break that down for us.
Expressive individualism is essentially the air we breathe. You don't even realize you are inhaling it.
It's just the default mode of our culture.
Right. It is the philosophical assumption that human beings are entirely autonomous. Under this framework, you are defined exclusively by your inner feelings and your internal desires.
Okay, so I am whatever I feel like I am.
Exactly. And the ultimate goal of human lifelike, the highest moral good, is the authentic, outward expression of whatever those inward desires happen to be at any given moment.
I mean, we hear this everywhere. You do you.
Live your truth.
Follow your heart. Speak your truth. They are the slogans of expressive individualism.
And they sound liberating, don't they?
They sound incredibly liberating, but they actually trap you inside your own head.
Precisely. Because you have no external anchor. And the necessary consequence of expressive individualism is how it views any external structure.
Like institutions.
Yes. If the highest good is the expression of your authentic inner self, then any institution, any historical tradition, or any binding relational authority is viewed as inherently oppressive.
They're just getting in the way of the real me.
Exactly. They are seen as cages. They are societal constructs trying to suppress the real you. Trueman points out that in this environment, institutions like the historic church are entirely stripped of their authority.
They just become providers of a service.
They are transformed into mere vendors. They become vendors of self-actualization.
Oh, wow. So you just shop for a church.
You shop for a church or a theology or a spiritual community the exact same way you shop for a lifestyle brand. You pick whatever perfectly affirms your pre-existing inner feelings, and you discard whatever challenges them.
Which is incredibly dangerous when we remember what we just established a few minutes ago.
Right, about the algorithms.
Your inner feelings are being subtly, relentlessly manipulated by algorithmic snobbery.
Yes.
Your authentic self is actually just a composite of whatever TikTok or YouTube decided to feed you this week.
It's an illusion of autonomy.
So how do creeds counter this? How do a bunch of old theological statements actually act as an anchor?
Well, let's look at the word itself. The word creed comes from the Latin credo, which means I believe.
I believe.
Right. It is not a private, personal feeling. It is a public, communal declaration of objective truth.
So it's outside of yourself.
Exactly. Creeds violently push back against expressive individualism on several fronts. First, they assert that humans are not autonomous atoms defined by fleeting feelings.
We are connected.
We are creatures defined by our external relationships, our relationship to a holy God, and our relationship to a covenant community.
And what's the second way they push back?
Second, creeds assert that historical language is a stable, reliable vehicle capable of transmitting objective truth across centuries.
Meaning the truth doesn't change just because the slang changes.
Exactly. And in other words, you aren't tasked with inventing the truth. You are tasked with receiving it.
Receiving it. I love that. But I want to address the elephant in the room here because I know exactly what you, the listener, might be thinking right now.
The big objection.
Yeah. You might be saying, wait a minute. I don't need ancient creeds or complicated confessions. I just need the Bible.
Just me and my Bible.
Right. What about the phrase, no creed but the Bible? Doesn't that protect me from being bogged down by human traditions? Doesn't it keep my faith pure and focused only on the inspired text?
It's a very common sentiment.
It sounds so noble. It sounds like the ultimate defense against corruption.
It does sound noble, and it is a very common objection, particularly in modern evangelicalism. But we have to unpack the profound danger of that exact stance.
Danger. Why is it dangerous?
Because claiming no creed but the Bible is, ironically, a creed in itself.
Wait, really?
Yes, you're making a creedal statement. The problem is that it is a very short, highly inadequate, and completely unaccountable creed.
I really want you to let that sink in. You always have a creed.
Always.
You always have a framework for synthesizing how you interpret the Bible. You do not approach the text as a blank slate.
Exactly. Everyone brings a framework to the text. You bring your cultural background, your language, your socioeconomic status, and, as we've been discussing, your digital habits.
The algorithm is part of your framework now.
Yes. The only question is whether your framework is tested, historically rooted, and completely transparent.
Like a historical creed.
Right. Or whether it is a private secret creed that you have subconsciously absorbed from the surrounding algorithmic culture.
So if you throw out the historical guardrails of the creeds,
Mm-hmm.
if you say you don't need the interpreter's house, you don't actually become perfectly objective.
No, you just become highly vulnerable to digital manipulation.
You become a victim to whatever's trending.
Without a historical anchor, you will inevitably start interpreting ancient scripture through the lens of whatever moral panic is currently viral.
Wow. So creeds are basically the cure for algorithmic snobbery.
They absolutely are.
When you stand up and recite the Apostles' Creed, or when you study the Westminster Confession, you are forcefully, physically ripped out of the tyranny of the present moment.
You are connected to the past.
You are reminded that you are not the first generation to grapple with the nature of God, the reality of sin, or the complexities of the human heart.
It connects you to a multi-generational global reality that is infinitely bigger than the latest trending hashtag.
It is the ultimate reality check.
So we establish that historical, human-led institutions and physically gathered communities are our safeguard against this liquefaction of reality.
Yes, human-led physical communities.
But this raises a fascinating and deeply concerning question. What happens when we try to automate our spiritual guidance?
Oh boy, the automation of wisdom.
What happens when we apply our modern demand for frictionless convenience to the role of the interpreter?
Because that is exactly what we are doing with artificial intelligence right now.
It is.
And the sociological data on this is, honestly, it stopped me in my tracks when I read it. It's chilling.
The numbers are staggering.
We are looking at a landmark survey conducted in late 2025 by the Barna Group and Glue. They wanted to see exactly how people view the intersection of technology and spiritual authority.
What did they find?
Let's look at the raw numbers. They found that 30% of U.S. adults agree that spiritual advice from an AI, like literally a chatbot, is as trustworthy as advice from a human pastor.
30%. And we cannot write this off as just a secular phenomenon.
No, we can't.
Because when you look specifically at practicing Christians, that number actually rises to 34%.
Over a third. A third of practicing Christians view an algorithm as having the same spiritual authority as a human being who has dedicated their life to pastoral care.
And when you look at the generational divide, it accelerates exactly how you would expect.
The younger you get, the higher the trust in AI.
Right. 39% of Gen Z and 44% of millennials hold this view.
Nearly half.
Nearly half of all practicing Christians in those age brackets said they would actively trust an AI to help them grow spiritually.
And we have to look at the other side of the pulpit as well, right? It's not just the congregation.
No, a separate survey of Protestant pastors showed that more than 41% are already actively incorporating AI into their Bible study, their theological research, or their sermon preparation processes.
So the automation of the interpreter's house is happening from both the pews and the pulpit.
It's a systemic shift.
We really have to unpack the psychology of why this is happening. Like, why are we running toward this?
Well, the proponents of using AI for spiritual guidance have a very compelling pitch.
They do. It sounds great on the surface.
They argue that AI is the frictionless modern equivalent of the Gutenberg press.
Okay, the Gutenberg press democratized the Bible. So they say AI does the same thing for pastoral care.
Exactly. They say it democratizes information, it gives anyone, anywhere, instant access to historical context, cross-references, ancient Greek translations, and commentaries.
But more than that, they argue it provides a safe space, right?
Yes. A non-judgmental environment to ask hard, embarrassing questions.
Because a robot won't judge you.
Right. This appeals heavily to people who have experienced deep church hurt, people who have been abused or marginalized by human leaders, or people who suffer from severe social anxiety.
And we must approach that with profound empathy.
Absolutely.
The reality of church hurt is devastating. The desire for a safe, frictionless environment is a completely understandable human reaction to trauma or anxiety.
It makes perfect sense why someone would want that.
But we have to recognize that relying on an AI fundamentally misunderstands the nature of Christian discipleship and divine revelation.
It perfectly highlights the critical difference between transactional data retrieval and relational incarnational wisdom.
Transactional data retrieval versus incarnational wisdom. That is the core conflict right there. Let's break that down for the listener.
How do you see the difference?
Well, using an AI for spiritual growth is like using a GPS system that is programmed to only ever show you the most popular, frictionless, smoothly paved routes.
No bumps.
Right. It gets you to a destination quickly, but it completely bypasses all the scenic, difficult, rocky detours that actually build human character.
That's a great analogy.
But I want to push on this a little for the sake of argument. Why is convenience so dangerous here?
Why shouldn't it be easy?
Yeah. Why is it a bad thing to just get the right theological answer instantly without the messiness of dealing with people?
Because we have to understand how a large language model, an AI, actually works.
Okay, lay some tech knowledge on us.
An AI system excels at transactional operations. It uses tokenization.
Right.
It takes massive data sets, essentially the entire written internet, breaks it down into mathematical tokens, and identifies probability patterns.
So it's just doing math on words.
Exactly. When you ask it a question, it is not thinking. It is regurgitating text based on probabilistic models of what word should logically come next.
It's predicting the next token.
It can synthesize 1 million theological data points in a second. But an AI possesses no soul.
It have no spirit.
It has no capacity for reverent awe. It has never experienced the lived reality of human suffering or grief or the agonizing pull of temptation.
It's never lost a loved one.
It has no relationship with the divine. Discipleship is inherently relational and incarnational.
Meaning it requires flesh and blood.
Yes. True wisdom is not just knowing the right data. It is forged in the crucible of human frailty. It's forged in the intense messiness of a physical community and through the indwelling of the Holy Spirit.
I think about it this way. An algorithm cannot pray for you.
It literally cannot intercede.
It cannot sit with you in a sterile hospital waiting room at 3 a.m. when you get the worst news of your life.
All it does is output text on a screen.
Right. When you outsource your spiritual growth or your pastoral care to a chatbot, you are functionally reducing the living, breathing Word of God to a spreadsheet of data points.
You are stripping the humanity out of the divine interaction.
This brings us to a really fascinating historical connection that helps explain the danger of this mindset.
The historical parallels are amazing.
They really are. We are witnessing the rise of what can accurately be described as digital Gnosticism.
Digital Gnosticism.
To grasp the weight of this, we have to look back at ancient Gnosticism, which was a massive heresy that flourished in the first 3 centuries of the early church.
It was a huge threat to early Christianity.
I remember studying this. The Gnostics essentially believed that the physical, material world and the human body itself was an evil, illusory trap.
Right. They viewed the physical world as inherently bad.
They believed it was created by a lesser, flawed deity.
Exactly. So for the ancient Gnostics, salvation was not about the bodily resurrection. It wasn't about physical sacraments or caring for the poor or gathering together in a physical room.
Because the body didn't matter.
Right. Salvation was achieved exclusively through gnosis, a Greek word meaning a secret, esoteric, entirely intellectual and internal awakening.
Just downloading data into your spirit.
It was a highly individualistic, body-denying mystery religion. You had to escape the meat sack of your body to reach enlightenment.
And the modern parallel is chillingly exact. Digital Gnosticism assumes that we can and should transcend our physical limits through screens, avatars, the metaverse, or even transhumanist ideas.
It's the same philosophy, just new tech.
Exactly. In a religious context, this manifests when we start to view physical corporate worship as an inconvenient, archaic hurdle.
Like, why do I need to go to a building?
Right. Getting out of bed, driving your physical body to a building, sitting next to a coughing neighbor, smelling the stale coffee, taking physical communion. Digital Gnosticism looks at all of that and says, that is inefficient. That is unnecessary.
Digital Gnosticism assumes that downloading theological data into your brain via an AI or passively watching a live stream on your couch is functionally identical to the bodily reality of corporate worship.
It treats the physical body as entirely irrelevant to spiritual formation.
But Orthodox Christianity is built on the incarnation. It insists that the Word became flesh.
Flesh, blood, blood.
Redemption is embodied. Discipleship requires physical proximity. You cannot sanctify an avatar.
You cannot sanctify an avatar.
Wow.
And the ultimate extrapolation of this digital Gnosticism is the creation of the perfect theological echo chamber.
How so?
Think about how that AI works again. When you ask it a theological question, it doesn't consult the Holy Spirit.
No.
It scrapes the internet to synthesize the most dominant consensus of its training data.
Which is just what everyone else is saying.
Exactly. It is literally designed at a code level to give you a conversational, synthesized summary of whatever the internet already thinks.
It reinforces existing human biases.
Without any of the moral accountability that a physical community provides. A real friend or a faithful pastor will look you in the eye and speak a hard truth in love.
Something that might deeply offend your current preferences.
But save your soul. An AI is just a mirror reflecting the algorithmic consensus back at you, telling you exactly what you want to hear.
So we established that we cannot outsource our wisdom to an algorithm because true discipleship requires a physical body.
Relational accountability.
And the friction of human interaction. But this leads us to a profound secondary question.
Where do we go from here?
Well, if the physical body matters that much, does the physical format of the text we read matter just as much as who is teaching it?
Ah, the medium again.
This brings us to the crucial distinction between print and screen.
This section of the research absolutely fascinated me because it is so incredibly tangible.
It's something everyone can relate to.
We're looking at a sociological study by digital researcher John Dyer from his book, People of the Screen.
It's a great study.
He wanted to see if the physical medium of the Bible actually altered how people perceive the theology within it. So he set up a controlled study.
What did he do?
He took two groups of readers and had them read the exact same text, the Epistle of Jude.
Okay.
One group read it in a physical printed Bible. The other group read the exact same words on a smartphone app.
The results of this study are deeply revealing about human psychology and the cognitive impact of mediums.
What did they find?
The readers who used the physical printed Bible reported perceiving the God described in the text of Jude as judgmental.
Which makes sense. Jude is a tough book.
Right. However, paradoxically, they walked away from the reading feeling personally encouraged, grounded, and secure.
So they saw God's judgment, but felt secure.
Exactly. But the smartphone group had the exact opposite reaction.
Tell me about the smartphone group.
They read the exact same words, but they perceived the God of the text as faithful. Yet, despite perceiving God as faithful, they walked away feeling discouraged, anxious, and empty.
Discouraged and empty, from the same words.
Yes.
Let's explore exactly why that happens, because it seems backward at first glance.
Dyer concludes that a physical printed Bible feels solid and authoritative in your hands.
It has weight to it.
It has physical weight. It takes up space in the physical world. This haptic solidity actually allows the reader's mind to hold complex, seemingly contradictory tensions.
So the physical weight actually supports the cognitive weight.
Exactly. It gives the brain a physical anchor to process a God who is entirely holy and judgmental of sin, yet deeply, personally, and steadfastly loving. The print medium supports the cognitive weight of that tension.
But a smartphone? I mean, a smartphone is essentially an anti-focus device.
It's designed to distract you.
It is intimately linked in our neurobiology with ambient anxiety, doom scrolling, the fear of missing out, and the toxic positivity of social media.
We bring all of that baggage to the text.
When you open a Bible app on the exact same piece of glass where you just watched inflammatory political arguments, checked your work email, and scrolled through curated influencer lifestyles, your brain carries all of that neurochemical baggage directly into the text.
You subconsciously expect the God of the screen to match the tone of your social feeds.
Yes. You expect an entity that is endlessly affirming, unconditionally nice, and never demanding.
But the Epistle of Jude is a heavy, demanding text.
It doesn't match the expectation of the screen.
Furthermore, because the device itself induces psychological fatigue and constant anticipation of a notification, when the biblical text doesn't provide a quick, easily digestible dopamine hit, the user is left feeling empty and anxious.
And there is also the crucial issue of haptic dissonance, right?
Haptic dissonance, yes.
This is the lack of physical weight, the absolute absence of tactile connection. Think about how you read a physical book.
You know exactly where you are in the book by feeling it.
You use spatial memory. You remember that a specific verse or a powerful quote was on the bottom left of the page, about a third of the way through the book.
Your brain physically maps the ideas to a physical location.
But a screen destroys all spatial memory. Because the text is just an endless, frictionless scroll. There is no bottom left. There is no thickness to the page.
It's all just floating pixels.
And let me play devil's advocate here again, because I can hear the objection forming from the listener.
Lay it on me.
Okay, I understand the haptic dissonance argument. I understand the weight of a book. But fundamentally, if I'm reading the exact same English translation on a pixelated screen that I'm reading on a piece of paper, aren't I getting the exact same meaning?
The data is identical, sure.
Right, the data is identical. Why does the physical act of scrolling actually ruin the theology?
Because the act of scrolling changes how you interact with the context of the data.
The context.
A continuous digital scroll physically and visually isolates individual verses from their immediate surrounding context.
You just see one chunk at a time.
It exacerbates our modern tendency to read Scripture as a disconnected series of inspirational quotes. It turns the Bible into a mood board of affirmations rather than a cohesive, complex historical narrative.
And this brings us to a major methodological divide. We're talking about the grammatical historical method of exegesis versus subjective proof texting and modernized forms of lectio divina.
That's a critical distinction to make.
I want to make sure we clearly define these terms for everyone listening. I'll take a stab at the grammatical historical method.
Go for it.
Basically, this is an approach that demands you do the hard work of discovering the original author's intent.
Not just what it means to you.
Right. You have to study the grammar, the syntax, the literary genre, like is it poetry? Is it apocalyptic? Is it a historical letter?
And you have to understand the specific cultural context of the ancient Near East or the Greco-Roman world.
Exactly. The core premise is that a text cannot mean today what it never meant to its original author and its original audience.
That is a perfect summary. It forces you to ask, what did this mean to them in their specific historical moment?
Long before you were ever allowed to ask, what does this mean to me in my specific moment?
It is a deeply author-centered approach. It respects the text as an objective, historical, communicative act.
You are humbling yourself.
You are humbling yourself and submitting to the text's original meaning. Contrast this with the modern, popularized versions of Lectio Divina.
Now, we should note that historically, Lectio Divina was a beautiful monastic discipline. Yeah.
Yes, it was a practice of slow, contemplative reading. But modern evangelical adaptations often strip away the contemplation and devolve into a highly subjective search for a personalized, emotional spark.
Right. It becomes this practice where you read a passage over and over until a specific word or phrase just jumps out at you.
Or resonates with whatever mood you happen to be in that day.
It completely divorces the phrase from its historical context. It turns the text into a mirror reflecting your own psychology.
And the danger is that you start equating your internal intuition or your fleeting emotional mood with the voice of the Holy Spirit.
That is terrifying.
It is incredibly dangerous because it makes theology highly malleable and entirely self-centered.
It just becomes whatever I feel.
It mirrors secular literary theories like semiotics or reader response theory, where the text is treated as an isolated unit of meaning completely divorced from the intent of the author.
So the meaning is literally created by the reader.
If you read the Bible this way, especially on a screen that encourages fragmentation, you can isolate verses and make the text say almost anything to validate your current feelings.
Which brings us to the necessity of what we can call intellectual discomfort.
We need to be uncomfortable sometimes.
If you are actually submitting to an ancient Near Eastern and Greco-Roman text through the grammatical historical method, you are inevitably going to encounter things that deeply offend your modern Western sensibilities.
Absolutely. And we must realize that this discomfort is a feature, not a bug.
It's supposed to be uncomfortable.
Yes. When the ancient text contradicts modern values, the disciplined mind does not attempt to selectively edit, allegorize away, or creatively deconstruct the passage just to make it culturally palatable for 2026.
Submitting to the text means recognizing that human reason and the current algorithmic cultural consensus are not the ultimate arbiters of truth.
There is an old theological warning. Any text without a context is merely a pretext for a proof text.
I love that.
Therefore, the physical, slow, deliberate study of the printed page is not just an aesthetic preference.
It's not just wanting to smell old books.
No, it is an act of theological warfare against the shallow, subjective fragmentation of the digital age.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We have covered a massive amount of ground today.
We really have. We've gone from neuroscience to Puritans to AI.
We know our brains are literally physically being rewired by our devices to reject deep thought.
We know that AI cannot replicate the incarnational, suffering-forged reality of a human pastor.
We know we need physical print and historical context to avoid getting trapped in our own subjective echo chambers.
But how do you actually build a life that implements all of this?
Right, especially when your phone is constantly buzzing in your pocket demanding your attention. We need practical application. We have to figure out how to live.
This is where we must shift from theoretical analysis to the daily, gritty trenches of habit formation.
It's all about habits now.
We rely heavily here on Justin Whitmel Early's phenomenal book, The Common Rule.
Such a great book.
Early proposes a framework that changes everything. He argues that the digital infrastructure we live in is not a neutral tool. It is a machine of invisible habits.
A machine of invisible habits.
And this machine is actively, relentlessly forming us into anxious, reactionary consumers.
And there's a gut punch of a quote from Early that we have to sit with. Habits form the human heart far more effectively than humans consciously form their habits.
That is so profound.
We love to think we are in control. We think we are rational creatures making rational decisions. But our automated behaviors, the things we do without thinking, are actually writing the script of our desires.
To counter the invisible liturgies of the digital age, we have to establish intentional, countercultural liturgies of our own.
Let's define liturgy in this context, just so we're all on the same page.
Sure, a liturgy is simply a pattern of words or actions repeated regularly as a way of worship, aimed at forming the participant in a certain way. Early outlines 4 specific, highly practical habits designed to anchor the drifting mind. Let's go through them. The first habit is perhaps the most difficult for the modern person to execute. Scripture before phone.
Oh, that is so hard.
Waking up in the morning and refusing to look at the glowing rectangle before you look at the printed page.
It sounds so incredibly simple, but if you have tried it, you know it is agonizingly hard.
Your hand reaches for the phone on the nightstand almost involuntarily.
It's muscle memory at this point.
So why is this specific habit so critical?
Because what your eyes pay attention to in the very first moments of waking sets the entire trajectory and mood for your soul's formation that day.
It sets the baseline.
When you open a screen first, you are immediately flooded with the world's outrage, your unread emails, the anxiety of the news cycle, and the demands of the urgent.
You are letting the algorithm set the agenda for your mind.
By committing to the physical Bible first, you violently disrupt the algorithmic feed. You are consciously establishing God's authority over your day before the noise of the world can take root.
It's claiming the first territory of your mind. It's saying, this ancient truth is more real than whatever crisis Twitter is screaming about today.
Exactly. Now, the second habit, Early suggests, is regular digital fasting.
Digital fasting,
Yeah.
like turning it all off.
This could be turning the phone completely off for one designated hour a day, or observing a full 24-hour technological Sabbath once a week where you power down all screens.
This practice forces us to confront our deep-seated addiction to connectivity. We are terrified of being unreachable.
Taking a full day completely unplugged teaches the human heart a very humbling, very necessary lesson.
Which is?
The universe does not depend on your constant activity.
Ouch.
The world will keep spinning without your constant awareness of the news cycle. A digital fast creates the physical and mental silence required to actually hear anything other than the digital consensus.
That is so needed. Okay, the third habit is about physical embodiment. It is kneeling prayer 3 times a day. Morning, midday, and bedtime.
This habit directly counters the digital Gnosticism we discussed earlier.
Right, because it involves the body.
By physically dropping to your knees, getting down on the floor, you are forcefully integrating your flesh with your spirit. It forces your physical body to acknowledge your creaturely dependence on the Creator.
It is a repetitive physical anchor.
That violently pulls your mind away from the ether of digital anxiety and brings you back into the present physical reality of submission to God.
I've tried this, and let me tell you, it is physically awkward at first.
Especially if you're not used to it.
It feels weird, especially in the middle of the workday if you close your office door. But that awkwardness is exactly the point. It jolts you out of the virtual world.
And the fourth and final habit tethers all of this individual practice back to other human beings.
We need other people.
Yes, the embodied local church and shared meals. Early advocates for sharing at least one meal a day with others and dedicating 1 hour a week to deep face-to-face conversation with a friend.
Because the Christian life simply cannot be lived via a screen.
Friendship, the physical breaking of bread, and face-to-face accountability are the primary physical venues where our ambient anxieties are processed.
It is in the presence of other flawed humans that our digital illusions of perfection are shattered, and where the gospel is actually lived out in real time.
These habits build a structure.
You know, I was thinking about these 4 liturgies, and it struck me. They aren't meant to be prison walls.
No, they're not restricting you.
They are like a trellis. If you have a beautiful vine and you don't give it a trellis, what happens?
It just grows along the dirt.
It gets trampled on, it gets covered in mud, and eventually it rots. The structure of the trellis isn't restricting the vine. The structure is exactly what allows the vine to grow upward toward the light.
That is the perfect way to understand it. These practices are not legalistic burdens designed to make you miserable.
They are necessary lifelines.
They act as a continuous weekly protest against the isolation, the distraction, and the transhumanist trajectories of the digital age. They are the physical therapy required to rebuild the contemplative dimension of the brain that the internet has eroded.
Wow. We have covered an incredible journey today.
We started out visualizing your mind as a ship lost in the violent deluge of information overload.
We unpacked the terrifying reality of neuroplasticity and how our brains are being physically rewired to embrace algorithmic snobbery over deep truth.
We sought refuge in the dusty, water-cleansed rooms of the historic interpreter's house.
Learning that creeds are our anchor against the fluid chaos of expressive individualism.
We rejected the disembodied transactional digital Gnosticism of the AI pastor.
We reclaimed the physical weight of the printed page and embraced the necessary intellectual discomfort of grammatical historical exegesis.
And finally, we looked at how to anchor our drifting vessels with the daily physical liturgies of a countercultural life.
And as we close, it is vital to remember this. True biblical discernment is never just about data retrieval.
You cannot simply download wisdom from an app.
Discernment is a spiritual gift. It is forged over time in the crucible of an embodied historical community.
And it requires a violent, intentional break from the inertia of modern convenience. It demands that you grab the wheel. It demands that you stop drifting.
We noted earlier that habits form the human heart far more effectively than humans consciously form their habits. So I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to ponder on your own.
Really think about this.
Consider your exact posture right now. Consider your physical environment. Think about the specific screen you looked at or the app you opened right before you started this deep dive. If your daily digital routines are an invisible liturgy, a repeated pattern of worship, what specific vision of reality is your smartphone training your heart to worship at this very moment?